My name is Blake Jennings. I'm doing my PowerPoint here on project-based learning, and this is for IL 504, where I am pursuing a master's degree in instructional leadership. What is project-based learning? What does it look like? Facilitator. You have a facilitator in the classroom is what the teacher becomes. Instead of being a traditional teacher and standing up in front of the classroom and talking to all the children as they're in the class and just standing up in front the entire time, you become a facilitator. You're walking around helping kids as they're in groups working on different projects. You have to communicate. Communication is very important with administrators. Communication is very important with other teachers. So you can plan lessons across different curriculums, and then also communicating with your students and using communication. A form of communication you could use in project-based learning could be maybe using Google Classroom, communicating with them at home and things of that nature. Collaboration is the key, and then we'll talk a little bit more about collaboration as we go, but the students have to learn to work together to become college and career ready, because when they get down the road, they get into another job, they're going to have to work with people to solve problems. And then engagement. Engagement is the biggest thing for project-based learning, because the children now take control of the classroom, they take control of their own responsibility and what they're learning in class. The next thing here, collaboration, like we said, is the key. Collaboration is the main thing. The kids have to learn to work together, whether it's with a partner they don't like or a partner they do like. They have to figure out, what do we have to do to solve this problem? And that's one thing the teacher doesn't like sometimes, is maybe the classroom management part of it, because kids are up, walking around. It's not the normal setting. So teachers sometimes get scared and maybe don't want to get themselves into that predicament. And then the teacher also has to provide and give investigative lessons. With these investigative lessons, the teacher has to have questions in that lesson that make the kid want to think, that make the kid want to keep pursuing and trying to find what the answer is to that driving question. And then you have to bring in real world problems as a teacher. Associate it with what's going on in the world at that time, some way, if you can, with real world problem solving. And in that collaboration, they're constantly working together, seeing that stuff, and it still makes them more college and career ready as they graduate from high school. The 5E plan is a very good plan that teachers can use here to help themselves make a lesson plan. The first thing is engagement. You have to hook the kids some way, somehow. And in hooking them, showing them a video of some kind, playing a song of some kind, that hook kind of sparks that interest, and then they're ready to go and they're ready to work. So then at that point, they explore it on their own. They have to identify, what is that question, what is that essential question that we're looking for, and then we have to do our own research on it. The children do. You let them find their own notes. And then explaining. They have to explain themselves as they go throughout the process and have to justify all their answers throughout the entire lesson. And then extending it out to that real world, making them take this outside of the classroom where it's just not confined between those four walls. And then they have to evaluate. The evaluation part, you give them a rubric and they have to follow it step by step, and that way they know what is expected of them by the end of the lesson to get the grade they want. What does it look like in my classroom? In my classroom, say if we go to the science lab, the first thing we're going to have is we're going to have an essential question. And then we introduce that question before we even begin the lab. And the students have to continuously refer back to that essential question as they're working through the lab, and they're looking at the material that they have, and they're looking at their different steps, their processes to research what they need to know. And then after they found it, they researched, they went through the scientific method, they've done their experiment, they've collected their data. Now they can use all that info to solve that problem, is what they were doing in class. So in the science classroom, project-based learning has been around for a long time, but we give it another name, and teachers have always been doing it, but you have to put it into that mode of where the kid is doing everything and the teacher just kind of sits back and becomes that facilitator. With Learning Unit 3, here were my references. Here were the first 4 that we used on Learning Unit 3 with our literature review, and then my next 5 references that we had that also went with the review.